Thank you again for joining in to another video series where we're highlighting local faith-based entrepreneurs and investors. Today, I have Chris Truitt with me. Super excited to have it. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So let's jump right in. Who are you and what do you do?
So I'm Chris Truitt. We own Truitt Development. We're based out of Truitt, Oklahoma. And Truitt has three arms to it, basically. So we have a commercial construction side. We have a residential land development and construction side, and then an owner's rep side. And then to go along with that, we have a single family rental holding company, and then a multifamily and commercial holding company.
Yeah, so how did you get into this business? Did you always grow up handy? Did you grow up in construction?
Well, I was always handy growing up. I had initially wanted to be a mechanical engineer, so I went to Oklahoma State, started going through some of the classes, and did a job shadow at a Tulsa engineering firm, and realized that I'm not wired to sit in a cubicle all day and work on different components. And so went back to the drawing board. My dad had a couple buddies of his from college that had gone the construction management route. And so I went and met with them and kind of saw what their day-to-day looked like, and thought it fit my personality a lot better because it allowed some office work, some being out in the field, and you weren't really stuck in one place all day long. So made the transition. Coming out of college, worked for a large commercial construction company, mainly building elementary schools through the state, and then transitioned to a combustion company, which would equate mostly to steel fabrication. So we had a lot of vendors internationally, so got to travel a lot, which was an experience I wasn't expecting. Never thought I'd do that, but it was pretty interesting. But I have 4 young kids at home, and so traveling with the kids was not the best situation for us. So decided to start Truitt. We just finished our 7th year. So
Amazing. So you were traveling internationally across the nation also, and then you decided to start your own business. Would you say that the time factor of those are about the same, or tell me a little bit about maybe that aspect of that?
Oh, it definitely comes in waves. There's weeks where I feel like I work a pretty normal work week, and then there's certain situations where it's you feel like you're living in the office. You might as well just put in a little cot there and get used to it. But I'd say they're comparable now. It definitely on the front end there was a lot of really, really long days. But we've got a good team of people now, so that really helps.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about, this is a family business. What are some of the advantages and then disadvantages of having a family business?
Well, it's an advantage is that you know each other really well, right? It's easier than, I'd say, a partner that you meet and just decide to go together. But my dad and I are partners in this, and we found that we're at 2 very different stages of life. We have different needs, wants, and desires, and different energy levels. And so that's been a little bit of a challenge of, trying to find common ground on, who's responsible for what, who's willing to do what, and, when different opportunities come around, what does that look like, and how do we take those on?
Yeah. So let's transition a little bit here. Talked a little bit about your business. What's your story in faith?
So I grew up in Tulsa for the most part, and everybody in Tulsa attends church somewhere, and you do your youth group on Wednesday night, and so that's how we grew up. And I was saved early on, but I really felt like going through high school and college is kind of just going through the motions, and I'll go to church on Sunday morning, but didn't really have a sincere relationship, I felt like. So really after I got out of college, I started realizing that there's lots of changes in my life. I need to understand this component of my life better, and so got tied in really well with a great small group that we did a lot of inductive studies. We'd meet every Sunday night, and so that really helped really draw me back and strengthen my faith. And so my wife grew up in the Catholic Church, and so she had been baptized as a baby, but didn't feel like, that was her true, outward expression of her faith. And I felt like when I was baptized, it was more of everybody's kind of doing it this weekend at the pool, so let's just go there and do that. And so we both actually got baptized about 4 years ago. So
That's amazing. So your family, your faith, and your business, they're all really, really tied together. How do you integrate your faith and business?
Well, it's, to me, you've got to really walk the line between, we don't put, the fish on our cars or crosses on our business card or things like that. I think work's very important. We're called to work, and I think it's a healthy thing for us to do. And so, it's a way that we can interact with lots of different people, and we can really set ourselves apart in how we treat them, and how not just, the higher up if you're dealing with them, but the person cleaning the floors. I mean, if you treat everybody the same, treat them with respect, be helpful to them, then that really, to me, makes them think there's something different about the way this company's operating. They're here to help us. They're here to take care of us. It's not just a one-sided situation.
So there's a stigma in the construction world, the general contracting world, and it's negative, unfortunately. How would you say you're different from most general contractors or construction companies?
Yeah, that's a great question, and sometimes it's to our detriment, honestly, because I want to be treated a certain way, and I want to treat other people the same. And so when we go after certain projects, we know that you need to do X, Y, and Z for this project to work, and so we'll include that in our pricing. But the other folks that are looking at it are not including that, because they're like, well, we can make a change order out of this situation. And so we've lost a lot of work that way, because, their price is lower on the front end. And we've had customers come back to us after the project's done and said, man, you were right. I wish we would have gone with you. It'd been a better experience. But that's part of the situation. But we also, we try to treat everybody well. Our vendors get paid very quickly. We don't hold money. If there's a significant issue, obviously, then we have to work through that. But, we do everything we can to make sure that those guys get a check every week, because we know that they have responsibilities, and we don't want to be the one that's keeping them from being able to take care of their responsibilities.
Yeah. So it seems like you rapidly expanded your business. You got a lot of different people helping you out, either on your team or as maybe subcontractors. Tell me a little bit about your journey of leadership, how that's kind of changed, and maybe how that's different from what the world would say.
Sure. Well, it's funny because it was a very stark jump into, now you have somebody working for you and they're looking at you like, what do you do here? And it's in my past, it's basically like, here's a project, and I just figured out what to do with it. And I'd have some mentors that I could ask questions to or whatnot, but there wasn't a very specific training process through that. And so I made the mistake early on. I hired some younger guys that were similar background to me, and I thought, well, this is how I learned, so surely they can learn this way. And that was wrong. And now I'm not perfect at it by any means. I've still got a lot of work to go, but really try to spend time. I tell them, I'll spend as much time as you want. If you can bring questions to me, I'll put off what my responsibilities are right now, and I'll help you work through this. I'll be upset if you don't ask me the question, but I'm not upset. I'm happy to spend the time with you. And so that's really how I'm trying to change my outlook on that, and that's really been more beneficial. We just had a meeting a week and a half ago or so with a guy that's been with us a little over a year, and trying to correct a few things, but also saying, this is how I learned how to do this, and these are the things that are helpful to me, and so, you might try this, and so trying to bring things to their attention that they might not be thinking about, and be helpful to them that way.
Yeah, that's awesome. Tell me a little bit about your family. Your son's about 9 years old now. You kind of mentioned before. There's a little bit of a struggle in between, having a family member as partnership and then also coming into the business too. What are some of the conversations you're having within your family about something like this?
Yeah, it's I have 4 kiddos. Brady is 9, Avery's 8, Jackson's 6, and Madison's 4. And Brady definitely shows a lot of interest in the building process. He's very mechanically minded. And so my wife and I have talked a lot about, what does the future look like with him? He says he wants to be an engineer and wants to come work for us, but he's got a 3D printer, so he builds stuff all the time. And so there's some new technology coming out in the construction world where you use a 3D printer, basically pouring concrete to build structures. And so he's all about that and would love an opportunity to do something like that. But, it's a delicate balance of, you're responsible for not just your family, but everybody's family that works for you. And so, I make it very clear, and I do my best to say Monday through Friday, as much time as it's needed, I'll devote there. I try to keep my weekends very dedicated to my family. But, the family dynamic is interesting. My dad and I are business partners, and he's getting ready he says he wants to slow down and retire. So June of this year is his planned date there. So that's going to be an interesting transition. He's already started to really taper off his day-to-day involvement. And so we'll see what the future holds with Brady or some of the other kiddos and see what that looks like. But we're trying to keep an open mind about it and make sure that we're being wise, and we don't I don't want a situation where you find a spot for everybody in the family just because they need something and they really don't add a benefit to the business. There's got to be a good balance that they perform well and that it makes sense to bring them in.
Tell me a little bit about Traction and EOS and how those kind of play into your strengths and maybe how you've been able to find other people to find your weaknesses.
Sure. So we hired a business coach probably a year and a half ago, and that was part of the required reading to get started was the Traction book. So I read it, and then I had the CD in my truck, and I listened to it multiple times as I'm just driving to meetings and things. And so we have every 2 weeks a meeting with our business coach, and they go through, the standard meeting agenda process, and we develop our goals that we need and to take them down into little rocks and then action items. And so we'll take that same format, and then we have a Monday afternoon meeting each week. We do our commercial update meeting, and then we do a residential update meeting. And so really the players for each of those components will get an update on the projects, and then we have, specific, we're trying to find certain subcontractors for some piece or some project coming up, or recently we had to rework our website, and so that was an action item, and then from there it kind of peels off. Okay, we need some customer reviews and testimonials, and we need some pictures. So while you're on this job, this is coming up, so I need you to take pictures of this because this will be a neat piece to use. And so it really helps because I'm not a natural delegator, I'm more of a doer. And so it really helps identify certain things and say, I need your help to do this. And it's also been helpful because some of our folks have seen certain things and they're like, well, I'll take that from you. And so that's been a great shift in really our business of, finding some of the right people that identify, well, you don't need to drive over here and do this. I'm going to be over there anyway, so I'll take that from you. So,
is there an ideal client that you guys have? It says, you said residential and commercial, what's an ideal client for you?
An ideal client for us on the commercial side, we've done a lot of work with Quick Trip over the last 2.5 years, and that's been a great relationship. And, those projects are repeatable. It's really the same type project, just a different location. So that's a great type of customer for us. Same thing with the Capriati's franchisee. We've worked with them on their Broken Arrow location. We're currently building out their West Tulsa location. Our Burger King franchisee, we've helped them with some expansion throughout the state of Oklahoma. They've allowed us to really manage their construction process from start to finish. And so those are great for us. Really somebody who, and it's hard to say this, but if you're willing to trust us and not assume that we're just trying to take advantage of the situation, because that's unfortunately a lot of the reputation in this world, that is just, we're not trying to do a one-off project. We want to have a long-term relationship with somebody, and we want to treat and serve them well. And so if they're willing to say, okay, I trust what you're saying to us, then that's really an ideal client on the commercial side. And on the residential side, we're really looking for somebody who owns their property or has a lot or piece of property, because we won't go in and buy lots just in a neighborhood. We don't do that. But they want a custom project, that they want a high quality project, and same type of deal that they'll trust us. We had a project we recently completed where our number was about $120,000 higher than the competing contractor. But I sat down with them line by line and showed them exactly what the situation was. And, you've got utility runs, you're 800 feet off the road. You have road work that has to be done. You have all these other components that you've wanted, that you identified that you wanted, and they don't have any of that picked up. And so when I highlighted those pieces out of the budget, it was about $120,000. And when we finished that project and reconciled it, we were within, on a $700,000 project, we were within $3,000 of the total budget.
That's really amazing.
So that's what's fun, is like, you've earned their trust, it's executed well, and then, those numbers really line up, and that's where you kind of see it all come together.
Yeah. So in the Bible, it shares a lot of verses about building, about foundation, a lot of different things. Are there some things that are core to your business that you kind of cling to that's also alongside in the Word?
Mm-hmm. Trust is huge with us. Communication is huge with us. And we really just taking care of people, whether it's an employee or a customer. We had a situation probably 2 years ago where one of our employees was driving a company truck and got distracted and rear-ended somebody. And his first thought was, I'm going to get fired for this. And our thought was, is he okay? We can deal with that, but is he okay? And then reassuring him that, I understand accidents have happened. It's not an ideal situation, but, we're not just, we don't want to treat people like they're just a disposable thing. We're here to, provide or help them provide a good life for their family and opportunities to do what they want to do. And so we want to take care of them. And that's really how we try to look at everything. We're not perfect by any means, but that's how we try to look at the overall picture, is how are we going to take care of people and serve them well.
Yeah, that's awesome. So are there any local charities or initiatives that you really like to give back to?
Mm-hmm. Well, my wife and I are members of Battle Creek, and so we spend a lot of time serving and within the church. I'm going to help out next weekend with a youth event. My son is excited because he found out Sunday that I get to be part of his group that he's in. So we spend a lot of time working with the church, and then recently partnered with the chamber, they're doing Broken Arrow Chamber's doing an amplified broken arrow process. So that's a 5-year investment piece. So we partnered with them on that. Excited to see what that holds. There's some new development coming that's really going to help serve the south side of Broken Arrow. And so there's some potential travel involved with that to look at other markets and seeing what people have brought in, and then discussing with different businesses that are trying to come into the community. So
Yeah. How would people reach you?
So we're on all the social platforms, so Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. You could call the office because Angela's there pretty much all day, every day. Office number is 918-924-7131. You can email me directly. It's Chris Truitt at trucodevelopment.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Hey, I appreciate the time. Thank you.